Welcome to this episode of DIY3DTech.com. In this episode, I wanted to cover out a couple different things, starting with this jig that I've set up for my CNC router. Now, I've had this CNC, and I've talked about this in prior episodes. This is the Probotic Fireball V90. It's rather old. I think I've had it for, I want to say, around maybe 8 years now. So, it's an oldie but a goldie, if you will. So it's one of the first ones that came out, and the second I seen it in Nuts and Bolts magazine, I ordered it and put it together. Now, in the past, I've used this actually quite a bit, back before the days of 3D printing, etc. I ran a small sort of product business creating telescope products that I sold on the side for quite a while. For a few years, until some of the bigger companies like Mead and Celestron sort of got into the market and kind of killed it. What I did with this, though, is I built a series of jigs, and so this is going to be the first one I'm going to cover out, and one of the reasons I'm going to cover it out is because I have it mounted up and I'm going to use it. So figured I'd do a video on it to kind of explain what I'm doing. So one of the things I do is off of eBay is I get these sheets, these 12 by 12 sheets of both polystyrene and ABS. Now, for CNC, these are pretty good. You want to use a low flute mill, and you want to use a slow speed on it, or else it just melts the material and makes a mess. But I've done prior videos on that, so check out the playlists for that on how to cut polystyrene and ABS, which are rather light plastics. But this stuff is really cheap. I buy it in bulk off of eBay, and a lot of times I get it for sub-$1 a sheet, and I think it's about an 1/8 inch thick, and it's a good material for making different mounting brackets and things like that. So very happy with it. But one of the things that I did is I mounted up an 1/8 inch bit. I think it was an 1/8 inch shank, 1/4 inch. And then what I did is I routed out this table. So now this did a couple different things. So I used a piece of about 1/2 inch MDF on here, and I've got a center track in here. And so there's one of these thumb screws in the front and back, and then it mounts on top of the Probotics bed. And then what happens is by running it across, I've cut out a 12 by 12 piece, and then I've created an 11 by 11 internal, or it might be actually about 11.5 by 11.5, where I have about a 1/2 inch ridge here that the sheet sits on. And what happens is it slides onto the piece. It slides in like this. And you can kind of see over the years I've had a few overruns and things like that, but it's designed to be a spoil board, and it sits down in there. And then the second piece is again, I drop down the thickness of the material, and then from there I drop down the same thickness. So what happens is I cut the piece out, it drops down into the center of this and out of the way, or somewhat out of the way of the cutter. Because one of the things I don't like to use tabs. Tabs, well, okay, are a bit messy to go back and have to clean up. And I was actually cutting quite a few production pieces out of this, so I needed to cut a lot of volume, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time cleaning them up. So because they drop down out of the way, for the most part, what would happen is, again, the cutter doesn't impact it, or shouldn't, for the most part. And so, anyways, what also happens here is, if I get this get it to sit in here, for some reason it's being a little particular in that way. I think I got a little bit thing. So then what I've done is I've added these cleats on the side. There's one in the front, and these are just T-bolt tracks, and you tighten it down. And then there's one on the back side on there, so it just holds down the corner. And then what I can do is I just go off to the very corner, so I get a large area of working material centered in my job here. And then I just again run it and pick out the parts. So as I think I mentioned before, by doing this edge, I've now leveled it out, because one of the pieces that I had a problem with, and one of the reasons for creating this, is in the pieces I was doing in the past had to have very precision pockets. Very precision, is that right, English? Well, you get the idea. So the pockets had to be very precise. and I was cutting it out of acrylic material. And so because this became leveled with the tool surface by hollowing it out, it naturally became leveled, and I could do heavy, I could do pretty good precision in here. So anyways, wanted to share this. So again, if you want to make one of these yourself, in short, you basically need a piece of MDF, just a couple thumb screws. I just use 1/4 bolts in the T-tracks. Again, I got these at a Rockler woodworking store, these cleats. You could 3D print or make your own cleats from a CNC or 3D printer. And again, I just used some excess track here to create this, and 1/8 and 1/4 inch bit to hollow this out, or surface this, and it works great. So I really love this, and it also kind of keeps the material a little bit cleaner and stuff, because the pieces fall down in there, and I just vacuum it out. It's not perfect, but it's better. So anyways, hopefully you found this video interesting, and kind of a little CNC tip. I've got a number of other beds and jigs made up too that I'll show in the future as I use them. And so, hey, if you found this interesting, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. A lot more of this coming. And again, I'm going to cut this piece out, and it's going to go into another video. So stay tuned. A lot more coming. Cheers.
Please click like below and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on all of our projects.